Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this Findable webinar on workflows. My name is Paul Wojnauskas, and I'm an account executive here at Findable with about 8 years of prop tech experience under my belt. I'm joined today by my colleague, Ruan.
Hi, I'm Ruan, and I lead product and design at Findable.
Before we get going, just a couple of simple housekeeping rules. The webinar itself is set to take about 30 minutes of your time, and we'll leave 5 minutes at the end for questions. If you have questions, please use the questions icon at the bottom right of your screen on this webinar. And that way you'll be submitting questions to myself and Ruan so we can see them and answer them in the end. If you have any general comments as we go through the session, feel free to use the chat function, which is going to be shown. What you type there will be shown to everyone. So that's the only difference. Now, before we get started, let us just share our screen. And give you a very brief introduction to Findable. So Findable started in 2020, as we like to say, pre-GPT times, and is based in Oslo with offices in London and Oslo itself. And what we focus on is practical use cases for AI in real estate and how we can apply AI on property-specific documentation to drive outcomes and extract the relevant information for yourselves. Now, we've been doing that for a good part of 5 years. And in that time, we've got about 160 customers, and we processed almost 5 million pieces of real estate specific documentation with customers such as King's Cross, JLL, Moda, Colliers, Downing, and others here in the UK. Now, the reason we want to talk to you about workflows today is pretty simple. You could ask, why does it matter? Why discuss workflows in the first place? Well, what we found speaking to the industry and a lot of our customers is information is currently trapped across multiple systems, multiple data formats in PDFs, leases, contracts, and reports. And it takes a phenomenal amount of time to extract that data into a quality format that can actually be used for reporting, for transactional due diligence, for technical due diligence, for compliance needs. And there's a clear need for a good solution to be able to query your data, extract it, and utilize it in a way that drives value, saves time, reduces compliance risk, and increases the speed at which you can transact assets in real estate. It's still a very manual process in a lot of instances, so spreadsheets are still the #1 tool to extract data, but it's done in a manual way by people, and that obviously takes a lot of time. And teams are losing days, even weeks in certain scenarios, searching for, copying and pasting and structuring that information in a format that can be used. Now, the question we would ask is, if you could extract the data you need in a time it takes for you to make a cup of coffee, how valuable would that be, and how would that change your day-to-day? And so to answer that question, we'll pass on to my colleague Ru, who will show you workflows and explain more in more detail how workflows work.
Cool, thanks, Paul. Let me find you the right screen, and then we can get going. Okay, so everyone can see this, right? You can see the Paul, yeah. So workflows, as Paul mentioned, nice introduction. In the Findable platform today, you can try workflows straight from our homepage, but if you need to navigate to it, we have it here in the left-hand menu. And workflows is free to get started, and we have started to build out some templates for you to use. So the one I'm going to go through a little bit today is around lease extraction, and then show you a few more things and a few more templates you can use to get some ideas. So as you can see, some of the templates are here. If you want to show and hide more, they are there. You can create your own templates. And then you have a recent history of executions down below. Now, we definitely want to help you get started. So there are a few different ways you can get started with workflows. You can either use the guided setup or the manual step-by-step flow. And what we do here is we help you create effectively what the table looks like. You select the documents, and then we go through and process everything to extract the data that you want. So for this example, I'm going to use the guided setup, and I've prepared, I guess, a very simple example of trying to extract some data out of my lease agreements. So the goal that I've set the AI for here is around importing these data points from my lease agreements. I'm stating that they're commercial agreements and want to really extract tenant name, address, square foot, etc. So you can see some of that information here. Now, if I go ahead and generate that workflow, what you'll see is it starts to create each of the data points. So you don't have to create it all manually yourself if you're not sure where to get started. So here was the original goal. I can update this and make some changes if needed to regenerate these columns. But you can see they've been generated here. These are can be rearranged later, but there is particular types. So text, numeric, date, currency, etc. is what it has decided to use. I can show you some more later. You can go in here and make edits. So if you decide to give it a different name, change the description, or choose a different type. So as mentioned, there are various different types. And also you can add another column. So let's say I wanted to actually add something about the fact that is the document signed or not. So you can see I've done this already, but would add in the description and to check if it's signed. So I'm going to use it as a yes/no type. And actually, notice it's already there. And the other thing that is particularly useful is to check that who signed it. So actually, let's go ahead and change that. So I can say, rather than say is it signed, who actually did the signature? So quite a simple one. So who signed the document? And then rather than doing this here, sorry, I'm going to change this to who document, and maybe just keep this simple. Okay, great. And now I can go ahead and create a workflow. So you can see here you've landed now on effectively the table that's been built for you. You can see all the data points across the top. We do give the ability to edit here in case you've missed something. You can also drag columns around, and after the extraction, you can change the size of each of the columns if you need to. We also do save this, so it's always saved. So if you accidentally navigate out and come back, you can see that. But the next step really is just to go ahead and add your documents. So we prepared some today for the webinar, and at the moment you connect them via our collections, and you can see I've got about 14 documents here ready to go. So you hit run and off you go. So as this is running in the background, you will start to see data stream in. So as soon as we fetch the data, we start to populate each of the data points as they come, and they'll start to be populated in this table. If I go back, you can see here my recent extractions that this one is currently running and some that were completed in the past. And just waiting for that to happen. Depending on the number of documents and depending on the complexity of what you're asking for, it can take a bit of time, but you can start to see some information being pulled out now. Each of these obviously just shows you information on the types, and as mentioned before, you can kind of drag these around. Normally useful for sometimes the addresses, which can be quite long, than for some of these more shorter and more concise columns. So as you can see, we're starting to populate some of this data. I'll wait a minute. Oops, I will wait a minute just for it to appear. Okay, so now you can see that we've populated all of these. At the moment, we have a rough limit of 25 documents and 50 columns, which typically is more than enough. But if you want to dive into more of the detail after extraction and to understand, well, why is it picked out this, you can see this icon here for open. And what we do is we show you for each of these rows, we show you the reasoning and our confidence level as to the data that's been extracted. So you can really go and cross-check that information. We're not trying to be overly opinionated about the information. It's the information that exists in the document or it doesn't. And so we really want to highlight that to you and for you to make the decision yourself as to what information you want to actually use and extract. So if we look at one example where there is how we normally handle like conflicting information on multiple sources, the who signed was an interesting one because it's pulled out multiple people, and you can see there the reasoning is because actually multiple names are mentioned. So you can go and either choose something that's relevant if you have some conflicting information in your columns, or you can go and take a look. So if I look at this particular one, you can see this is a scanned document. If I scroll down into the signed section, where are we? There you go. You can see the different signatures by John, Simon, Alexandra, and they are kind of all extracted here, which is quite nice. So to mention different types, if we go and have a look at a manual extraction that you can do yourself, it will, you can build it step by step. So you land on exactly the same page, except this time you're adding each data point manually. And at the moment we have various different types. So text, as you've seen, you can create a bulleted list, a tag, dates again you've seen, and yes or no. Multiple tags is interesting for possibly understanding if a contract is signed by multiple parties or a singular party or whatever you like. Something in the currency or numeric for square foot. Verbatim is typically used when looking at legal language and want to extract the exact text rather than any processed text from AI. And then percentage values. And you go and create all your data points, add the documents, and hit run in exactly the same way. But these templates are really to help you get started. And so, yes, as mentioned here, this has now all been extracted. As you can see, it's done within 70 seconds. So, it's 14 different lease agreements across, in this one, which was 8 to 10 columns here, all done within 70 seconds, which typically takes a lot longer, right? We give you the option to download as CSV, so you can download all this information and then interrogate, however and wherever you like. And I think that about wraps it up in terms of the core current capability, and happy to take any questions or run through anything in more detail.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ruwan. One of the questions that came through as you were speaking about this was how accurate is the AI data extraction that we employ in this process?
Yeah, I mean, we extract the data in terms of text out of here. So AI can always make some mistakes. We try and work really hard to be as accurate as possible. But as I mentioned, we also try and be as honest as possible about the level of confidence we have in the data that's been extracted, because for this particular element, it has found the premises in the summary is here, but it's not explicitly mentioned. So it's calling it out, so you can actually then go into the document itself and take a look. So I don't think we have an exact figure here, but we try and be as accurate as possible, but always ask that you check, because mistakes can happen for sure.
The other question as a follow-up to this is asking, is this only meant for lease data extraction, or do you support other documents in these workflows as well?
Yeah, so the example is for leases, but obviously, it could be for, these are just some examples, for transaction due diligence, so a bit more financial data. We support many different Office file formats. At the moment, I think for these, we're all PDFs from memory. So if I take a look here, PDFs, but yeah, so, Word files and Excels, etc. We will also, we also do support. So, yeah. Any data point where you can build your own columns, let's say, depending on if it fits one of these use cases, right? You want to extract a particular point with a particular type that fits in here, then it's something that we can extract. Obviously, if there are any others that are missing that you would like to see, we're always happy to take feedback and improve this. This is almost our version 1, so we definitely know we can do more and build more value into the current functionality.
So in that sense, workflows are a flexible setup that can be tailored to particular needs, right? It doesn't have to be just these templates that we're seeing on the screen today.
Yeah, exactly. These are to get you started, but if you want to create your own template, from creating it manually, so if we go back here, you create it manually, you can save it as a template, so you can always come back to it and execute it, time and time again.
Another comment I've got here is, I'm rather impressed you managed to pull all of that data out of 14 leases in 70-something seconds. Can that data be exported to other systems or to Excel for me to take out of your solution and then work with further?
Yes. Well, I guess yes and no. For right now, if you export it as a CSV as our sort of current capability, but coming very soon is going to be report building and document creation. So we will be supporting not only CSV download, but like docx, Excel files, etc., and also allowing you to ask natural language questions across this data set. So in the same way you might know and you can ask your building and documentation, these sorts of questions, you'll be able to do it with the workflow extraction too, to interrogate the data and effectively build a report and download. So if you want to do it today, do it via CSV, and you can completely open it up into Excel. But yeah, coming soon will be more file type support.
Speaking of Excel, what often happens is Excel data is very difficult for AI solutions to read. I mean, what's our approach when it comes to parsing Excel data and being able to pull out specific data points out of Excel files?
Yeah, so I think this is correct. We extract the Excel and turn it into Markdown, which is easier for our AI models to understand and interpret. So yeah, we have done this for quite a few years now, and have tested it less so with workflows, but with more our core ask functionality. So that's why we support many different document types and file types. So it's something that we have done many times before. The difference with that and with this is that we're kind of doing it at scale, right? You're doing it across many documents, various data points, rather than having to ask one document, many questions, another document, another set of questions, and so on and so forth. So really trying to cut down the time it takes to deliver the answers, right?
Thank you. One last question here. You briefly showed the tag option. Can you show that in more detail?
Yeah, good question. So tag option is here. And so I can open this up and you can see the types, but you can create multiple different tag types. So maybe if I go and I can do a whole new one, but let's say you use this lease extraction template. You want to add in a different type. So let's say like there's multiple tags. I think I had one here. If you, let's say you want to see who signed something, but actually you wanted a bunch of tags. So it might be one of the parties, both or none, let's say. So you can basically create them here. So one of the, also just one party, both or none. Oops, none. So then when the AI runs, I mean, I suppose we can run it here anyway, why not? We'll run it all over again, but effectively what will happen is it's going to run all of this stuff all over again, but you'll get a particular tag that can be used. For this one, because it's multiple tags, it can also be more than one. If you choose a singular tag, the AI will decide if it's one tag or the other. So whilst this one's running, I'll go back to the other one real quick, and you can see the tags here. So this one obviously only had the option of one tag, whether it be quarterly, annual, etc. So it can only select one, and the other option is multiple. So it can obviously choose more than one.
So ultimately, if the end user has what we would see as a drop-down menu of potential answer types to a particular data extraction point query, then they can add those types under tags. That could be quarterly, annual, 6 monthly, etc., right? In the same sense, it could be different rent types, it could be different lease agreement types. It's almost like a quality assurance layer in that sense, that not just extracts data, but can reason between multiple different types of information that needs to be pulled out.
Yeah, exactly. Or let's say you're using this today, but you're doing a lot of this in Excel, and it's just a drop down, multiple select drop down. It's kind of doing the same thing, but obviously allowing the AI to then choose which of those options you want to tag, and that's how that particular one works.
Yeah. Thank you, Ruan. Mindful of time, everyone. We're going to start wrapping this up. So any final questions you have, feel free to post them in the question section. Ruan, I've got another one here. Does your solution work with old legacy scan documentation too, or does it have to be natively digital files such as PDF?
No, it does work with scan documents. I think in the example one, it does depend on the quality of the scan, admittedly, but this example here is a scanned document, so it's not a native digital file. It was scanned in as a PDF. You can see the lovely scan marks. But yes, we support that. We also support handwriting, which is why we can determine things like who the signature was. So if you looked at actually that exact same, it says John Smith, Simon Alexandra. If I go back into this one, near the bottom, here we go, it had all the signatures, John Smith in like really bad handwriting, Jennifer's a bit better, Simon, that was a witness, sorry. But yeah, so because we support that, yes, it's completely capable of extracting that from those. Slight caveat is obviously it does depend on the quality of the scan, but yes, we can support those.
Super. I think that covers all of the questions from the audience. And if I've missed anyone, please just put it in the chat again. But I feel like we went through most, if not all of them so far. No more questions, I believe. So really to recap then Ruan, Workflows gives our users the ability to extract data out of their documents at scale, right? Without spending the manual time it would more normally take to find that information, validate it, and then copy it out of the documents for what it's needed to be used for. It's available to everyone on Findable now. There's no additional cost for it, so we encourage everyone to give it a go. If you're not on Findable, but you would like to try Workflows, what we would say is just put demo in the chat and we'll reach out to you and allow you to play with Workflows and test it in your own environment, whether it be leases or any other type of documentation. And that's it. We will also be running these in the future as we improve Findable and release new features and new workflows that we feel will be of interest and particularly valuable to our customers and prospects. If you have any ideas on the back of this webinar, feel free to submit those and we're more than happy to review and listen to your feedback. But for now, thank you for joining. Appreciate you taking the time. Wishing you a good rest of your evening and hope to see you on the next Findable webinar. Thank you.
Thanks, all.